The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pac wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
Welcome back, wrestling fans, to a brand new episode of the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast, the off-season edition. I'm your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt. And normally I have Wolfpack head coach Pat Popolizio right here to talk all things NC State wrestling. But the Skip is on the road as of this recording. He's out in Iowa City as he watched Nick Wisdowski wrestle for the U.S. at the 2018 Freestyle World Cup. So I dove into my contact list once again and brought into the studio former NC State All-American Tommy Gantt to talk about his post-NC State wrestling career, which included a huge international tournament win. Tommy, thanks for stepping up to the plate and being our guest this week.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
And I guess first we got to start something I never settled with you during your career. Do you prefer Tommy or Thomas?
Tommy's fine.
So we'll go with Tommy. Now, again, I've asked you before, but I have no idea. How do you say your hometown?
It's called Cahokia, Illinois. Yeah, I know people get that mixed up a lot, but it's a little tricky, but that's what it is.
So you came from Illinois. High school, you were state runner-up, third as a junior. You had over 120 wins. What drew you to NC State, and just how different is Raleigh from where you grew up?
I would say mostly the environment. Like, it's a real good environment down here. It's a great place to be. You're about a couple hours from the mountains as well as the beach, and just a bunch of great people, man. That Southern hospitality. I was walking around when I was on campus, and everyone was just happy, and they were speaking to you and whatever, and I wasn't so used to that. So I was like, man, this just feel like this is the place I need to be.
So are you truly Southern now that you've been here for, 6 or so years?
I wouldn't say that, but I'll take the adopted route. I guess I'm. Yeah.
Now, you were recruited in your first season, coached by the previous coaching staff. NC State made that change after your freshman year and brought in Pat Popolizio. Mm-hmm. What were your first impressions of Pat, and how did he and the new staff change the culture of the program heading into your sophomore season?
My first impression, man, I was just glad to, he wanted to win, and that's what I wanted to do. So I think we hit it off pretty well when he, got in. He brought me into a meeting and we sat down and kind of mapped some things out, and that's the gist of what I got. I just got WIN out of the guy. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm fully on board.
How about before you first met him, was there kind of a nervousness? You were only a freshman, sophomore, just a whole new staff, whole new environment you were about to undertake?
Definitely, man. Definitely. And when I heard that Carter got fired, I was a little nervous and whatnot, because usually when that happens, a head coach comes in, he cleans house. You know what I mean? It just brings his guys in. So I didn't really know what to expect. But as we got to know each other and meet and talked about some things, discuss whatever we needed to, and map some things out, I found a friend and a coach and a good man in Pat Popolizio.
Now, you secured the starting spot in the lineup as a sophomore at 149. Can you believe you're at 149, by the way?
Man, I couldn't. I was actually recruited at like 133, 141. Never lived to see 133 and
Southern. Did the Southern cooking get to you?
I think that's what it was, and all that sweet tea.
You moved up to 157 as a junior, and really that was your breakthrough year. You went 35-10. You were the ACC runner-up and qualified for the NCAAs for the first time, and you were one win short of All-American honors as a junior. What do you attribute your breakthrough season to?
I attribute that to putting the work in the summer. Like the previous years, I ended up going home for the summer, and when I stayed here that year before then. The year before my junior year, that's when I put a lot of work in and really improved on some different areas that I needed to improve on and to get better for the following year.
And a trend, I think you kind of started it here, but NC State has used the success over the last few years. You took a redshirt season between your junior and senior campaigns, which it was a little odd for NC State, but you were kind of the first one, and a couple other guys have done that, but very successful for you. What went into that decision? How beneficial was it looking back?
It was really Pat's idea. I wanted to go straight through, but he was like, "Nah, man, this is what we need to do." So I trusted the process, and I got an All-American honor out of it. But going back to redshirting in between your career, I think it really helped out that I kind of established that foundation that junior year, and I used that redshirt year to really hone in on my skills and like perfect my craft and focus on things that I really needed to focus on to get to that next level.
I was going to say that final campaign, you won an ACC title. You helped NC State win the ACC title. You guys were 23-1 on the season, including road wins at Oklahoma State and Iowa. And the Pac finished ranked number 2 nationally. You fought and earned. You got your All-American status. It was at Madison Square Garden. Just a great way to end your NC State career. It was your last go-around, but what do you remember or what do you take away from that final season?
I think the biggest takeaway for me for that final season was just the camaraderie of the team and just being around those guys and stepping out there on the mat and doing it for them every single time. So that was pretty much what I got out of that. And I mean, it was one of the best times of my life. We got to wrestle Iowa and Oklahoma State on the road and came up with 2 big wins. So it was just a really good season, man. And it really paid off and put things into perspective for me as an individual and for most of the guys on the team.
Now, I always try to ask a recruiting kind of question, but when you first came here, you guys were in Reynolds Coliseum. You were kind of pushed in the corner. You had a little black drape, maybe about 20 fans. But you saw Reynolds this year, obviously, at a lot of our duels. How great has the transformation been for wrestling to get that facility? It's
been fantastic, man. I remember those days, just like you mentioned, when we were over there in that corner, man. It was it's a little rough. We had about 200, maybe 100, 200 fans out there, and most of them were our parents. So it's been a great transition, man. And it just shows that just time and hard work being put into a program can make the program jump leaps and bounds. And I think that's what we've done. We started to make NC State be recognized as a wrestling school.
We're going to dive into your post-NC State career. You did earn your degree in social work following that final season. What were your plans for post-college life kind of when you were going through that senior season?
I always knew I wanted to stay here and train. I just didn't know how I would go about it exactly, but I ended up accepting a graduate assistant position, so I was able to train and pursue my master's in social work as well.
I was going to say, when you first came to NC State, regional training centers were just starting to pop up around the country, and NC State did not start theirs until Pat and his staff came down here. As you were competing and wrapping up your career, what did you know about RTCs and just about post-college wrestling opportunities?
I didn't know too much, actually. I had to talk with Pat and Obi and Adam about the RTC situation, but I knew colleges were starting to get them, but I didn't exactly know what they were. So with that being said, I just mapped some things out and talked to those guys and we figured it out.
You figured it out. Was it an easy decision to stay here in Raleigh? Were you just comfortable with this coaching staff and the environment? Is that why you chose to continue training here?
Yeah, I think that's mostly what it was, man. And I had a few offers to go some other places, but I just felt like it was right to stay here. And I trust Pat, I trust Adam, Obi, all those guys, Donnie now too, Frank when he was here. So it was just a good situation, I felt like.
So you are training full time. Kind of take us into what is a day in the life for guys that work out at the Wolfpack's RTC?
So basically, everybody's like kind of doing their own thing as far as strength and conditioning goes. But I personally, I work out either in the morning and then before or after. Actually, in the morning I'll lift and then I'll practice in the evening. And sometimes I'll lift after I work out just because I'm already warm and whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we travel and train sometimes, like we'll go up to a different RTC or something like that. And mostly we compete at these domestic tournaments like the Bill Farrow, Dave Schultz and whatnot. But that's pretty much the schedule right there.
So you're training full time and you don't have to disclose financials, but how do you support yourself?
So basically most guys in RTCs will get paid through like a monthly stipend or whatever, like from the club, which is like most clubs are like 501c3s. So they receive like charitable donations and they'll disperse them as needed. But I have kind of like a special situation. So I'm a graduate assistant. So basically I get paid to go to school and train. So that's pretty much my deal.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you also have a relationship with Titan Mercury. Is that right?
Yes.
So talk about them and just how great their involvement is with the RTC.
Titan Mercury is great, man. They do a lot for our RTC, I know. And then just around the country, they do a really good job. But basically, Titan Mercury is it's a club, and they basically cover your travel, finances, and some of your expenses for traveling and competitions and stuff like that. So like for the Bill Farrell, they took care of the flight, hotel, and a little stipend when we got out there for like food and stuff like that. So
are you going to be in grad school for next season too for us here at NC State?
No, actually, I just redid a new contract to stick around next year, and I'll just be training full time. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I was going to say breaking news, and I'm working on the release with Pat, but he did say you're full time here at NC State now. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Glad you're staying around. And we saw you at a bunch of home duels this year. You and Gwiz were seniors that season that really started NC State's ascension into the national rankings as you got All-American status. But how proud are you of where this program is right now, including a team trophy the team won this past NCAA championship?
Yeah, man, I couldn't be more proud of those guys, man. To see guys that I came in with, like Mock, I consider those guys brothers, man. And just to see him get it done this year, Tariq, Kevin, Hayden, it just speaks volume to the work that these guys are putting in, man. And I'm excited for the future of the program.
Now, he helped you during your NC State career, but now Obi Blanc leads up the training for the Wolfpack RTC. Mm-hmm. How instrumental has he been to you in that role of his?
Obi's been great, man. He's a really good clinician. He's a good coach, and he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the RTC. Like he'll, we were talking about this the other day. Like he'll just think of something off the top of his head. He's like, all right, Tommy. He's like, hey, you got pretty good length here. Try this. And then it ended up working out for me. I actually hit one of those turns at Bill Farrell, actually.
And one big change, which I'm still constantly learning about, it's different nuances. College is folk style, while now you're competing in freestyle on the international level. So what are some of the bigger differences, and what in freestyle helps you to use an advantage there?
I think the biggest folk style advantage I use is my conditioning. And it's kind of been a process with like how we're trying to reconfigure it or whatnot, because you can't just be like as wild as you can be in folk style, because you got to be a little bit more controlled, because two scores in the match could be over, because it's a 10-point type fall instead of 15 points. And the most you can score in one exchange, I believe, is 5. So with 2 5-point throws, a match could be over. So with that being said, you got to be a little bit more controlled. And that's what I've been working on, just controlling the match and mapping it out a little bit more and being a little bit more strategic about it.
Do you miss anything about folk style?
The neutral aspect of it. I never want to wrestle on top and bottom again. That wasn't fun for me, but I did it.
You started your freestyle career at 70 kilograms, but you recently moved up to 74. First, I have to ask, I'm not European, so what does 74 kilograms translate to into pounds?
It translates to 163 pounds.
And do you see yourself staying at 74 now?
That's what it looks like as of right now. I may be going back down, but that's what it looks like as of right now.
Okay. I got to ask, what went into changing weights? I know since you were wrestling here, you love to tweet out pictures of food. So I'm sure you like moving up some, but what decided to go up, move up a weight class of this last tournament?
Ultimately, it was the new weight classification rule. So basically last year and every other previous year that I've known of, there are what they call night before weigh-ins in freestyle. So what happens is you'll get into a tournament and, say you fly in at 5 p.m., the weigh-in will be at like 7 or 8 for the following day. But now, recently, I think in October or November last year, they made it the day of weigh-in, just like folk style. So you'll weigh in at 9 o'clock and you'll compete at 11. So that was really big in my transition. So, because I know I'd struggle making 70 kilos the day of. So I was talking to Obi and Pat, and they were like, we just think it's best that you go up for right now.
Was it a little bit different to go back to cutting weight for that weigh-in like you used to the morning of?
Oh, it was extremely, and I had a rough time sleeping the night before that competition. So, but I think I'll get adjusted as we get further and further in the season.
So last summer you qualified for the World Team Trials, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but you also qualified for this year's World Team Trials. But going back to last year, can you talk about that experience and just the high level of competition that's at that event?
Yeah, man, it's crazy actually. Like I had a rough time out there. I wouldn't say I had a rough time, but I had a pretty difficult time transitioning into freestyle last year because I was getting caught like with all my collegiate and folk style tactics. And like I was just telling you got to change things up a little bit. And I think I did a better job of that this year. But the talent level is crazy. Like you got guys like James Green, Nazar, who's training out at Wisconsin. Guy from Boise State, I forget his name. Chamberlain. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got all those guys, man. Those multiple national titles right there and multiple All-American statuses. So you just got to be ready every time you step out there.
And sort of like that junior season of yours, you recently had a breakout performance that many in the wrestling circles were talking about. Up in New York, you claimed the gold medal at the 2018 Bill Farrell International. Was that your first tournament win post-NC State?
Actually, it was. I didn't realize that, but it was actually, and it was good to get that win. I mean, I think it really put things into perspective for me, and I mean that's not the end. So we'll keep working, moving forward.
I was gonna say you had a great comeback in the semifinals. You scored a tech fall in the finals to win. It was a great weekend. How does that just help you go to that next level?
I think it helps me tremendously. Like I said, it's not like the Euregan or anything like that, but it's a good stepping stone. And I just feel like I wrestled to the best of my ability. Maybe not so much in the semifinals or the quarterfinals, but I felt really good in that final match. And that's where I gotta start competing at, especially to compete with those high level guys like Burroughs, Nazar, all those guys. You gotta be competing like that every time.
Now, the win qualified you for the World Team Trials. Is that your next event, or do you have a tournament before then?
We've got something in the works, but other than that, if that falls through, it'll be the World Team Trials.
So talk about that. How much are you looking forward to the World Team Trials? Last year you experienced it some, but now you're coming off with a little more confidence and just another year of training.
I'm really looking forward to it, man. I can't wait to get out there and compete with all those guys, like I was just saying, and I just really want to test myself. I feel like in order to push yourself to be the best, you got to wrestle the best and compete against them and win. So I'm really excited to get out there and compete against those guys.
Tommy, I want to thank you for stopping by and spending some time with us on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. One of the great things about NC State wrestling fans is they love to keep up with all of our former guys and what they're doing now. So I know they all appreciate catching us up on your career, and I speak for them, wishing you good luck at those team trials.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Go Pack.
And I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast covering all things NC State wrestling. Until next time, Wolfpack wrestling fans, go Pack.
Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to MatTalkOnline.com.